Welcome to the Cauldron of Curiosities, and today we rejoin Cameron Raphael, a conversation with this magician, tarot wonder, and impresario of mind, body, and spirit. We rejoin the conversation at Magical Films. Welcome back, Cameron.
Oh, since I was 10,
Ah,
on and off. So I wasn't a very confident young chap, as despite how it appears now. So my mum sent me along, and I was in a pantomime, did panto after panto after panto, and lots of other sort of comedy fast roles. And then naturally, it's no longer cool to do stuff like that, so I stepped away from it. And then in 2018, I returned to the theatre to direct. So I directed a production of Treasure Island, pirates and sing songs and shanties. It was great. But in the meantime, I'd sort of picked up performing anyway, which I loved. And then naturally the pandemic came, and I would have lost a lot of work anyway. So I hung up the heels as the drag character, and only this year did I think about returning. And then, due to the fact that my other half is waiting on a surgery, I was I'll have time to do that. And then it looks like it could be happening in September, so which is when I'm supposed to go on stage. But yeah, so unfortunately, I had to bow out of that one. And luckily, we'd only had about 3 or 4 rehearsals. So to find someone to take on my character, which was the lead, what hopefully isn't too much of an effort for them. In that sense, should be easy to find somebody.
and what was the character?
So he was called Dave, and he was a straight, sort of neurotic, middle-aged gent, really, that had just found out that he was about to inherit £6.5 million from a long-lost relative.
Mm-hmm.
And he needed to be married to receive it, so he's not got a girlfriend or anything like that, and he had to convince the neighbour, who only agreed to do it if they paid her. And then sort of the typical farce sort of things ensue, like his stepmom appears randomly and like wants some of the money. His best mate is a complete incompetent. He thinks like the radio's giving him messages from beyond because it's kind of describing bad things happening, and so it would have been an exercise in me being completely neurotic.
So it would have been fun.
Yeah, it would have been fine. Yeah, it would have been fun. It would have been very easy.
Oh, I think it's funny, isn't it? Because when I look back over when I was younger, and I was constantly doing stuff like stage things as a teenager. I don't know if you ever heard of something called the gang show that the Scout movement used to do.
Yeah, I'm aware of it. Obviously, I didn't do scouting as a child, but aware of it.
Yeah, they still do a gang show apparently in some places, but it was done. So many places used to do them. We used to have one in the Regal Cinema, which was huge, and they would have all the Scout movement and guides and brownies coming around from Cornwall, and it was a bit like a variety show.
Yeah.
And so there would be different things, and it was always lots of singing involved. And I remember one year I was on there dressed as a nun, and we were singing some song out of The Sound of Music, and but there was so much amateur dramatics available that you just took part in. It was part of the autumn with the dark nights was there'd be panto to get involved with, and you would be maybe part of a chorus line, and then you'd have the nativity to do, which that used to be an escalation of your role, used to change from starting off being a sheep. And I actually did play the angel Gabriel.
I remember my nativity in nursery. I think I was Joseph.
Oh, I was 16 when I was the Angel Gabriel, because you had to be relatively tall and of a size, because you wore Mrs. Jeffrey's wedding dress to play the part, and the wings were huge. They were heavy and they had proper feathers. Like, they were really well made wings.
That's
Um,
brilliant.
yeah, so they were. It was quite something as a costume to wear. It was
Yeah,
the best costume in the whole nativity play over the years was to be Gabriel with the wings.
yeah. I think I just wore like a pair of like pajama trousers and my dressing gown and a tea towel on my head. To be fair,
Oh, it's like
but
which film was it?
yeah.
Is it Love Actually, where it has where you've got all those kids coming on, like
Oh, I'm not sure.
dinosaurs and weird stuff in that panto?
I I think so. I've only watched that film once, so
Oh, honestly,
yeah, it
oh
was a
my,
long time ago.
need to see it again. Oh, 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 it's funny, isn't it? Because you have certain films. I don't know. Years ago, one of the cult ones was Dirty Dancing.
Oh yeah, everyone watched that, didn't they?
Yeah, and there was a
I watched
whole
it.
yeah, there was a whole thing because everybody was doing the dance. So because
Yeah,
we had the soundtrack and we used to
yeah,
have dance to all of that music. It was interesting the effect that those films have. So tell me, because you're much younger, what film has
yeah.
had the greatest impact on you?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I There's several, but I think top of my list um, is Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Hmm.
Then the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and trying to think. The what's it called? The Lake House. So yeah, those three.
Hmm.
Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, because it's pure camp. It's just silly, and I always thought one day when I was youngster, when I first watched it, I think I was about 15, that one day I would tour around and do all that, and I did end up doing that, but it was just the way that they all seemed so accepted. And I thought, oh, maybe one day we'll get to that, and maybe one day we will be at full full acceptance like they received. Obviously, they had a bit of a bumpy ride, but obviously Rocky Horror, pure from the fact that it was just so out there, and even for its time, it's 50 years old this year. Um, it's such a special movie because no matter what era you watch it in, it's still kind of current. And I mean, who doesn't love Tim Curry? I just think a bit of an
Yeah.
icon, and how to act and just not give a crap about what anyone thinks of the role. And he did it his own way, and it's very like inspiring that way. But you've got sort of like Susan Sarandon, like kind of like quite young into her career, and how it's made other people's careers. And the Lake House, purely because it was kind of like, it talks about grief, it talks about loss, it talks about sort of being in two sort of mental states. And I think, although it's set in two different timelines, I think it's very much quite imminent, or sort of indicative of like living in the past too much.
Yes.
Um, I'm a bit of a movie buff anyway, so I could have easily said about 50 films there.
And I'm on this theme. What about, is there a magical film that's your favourite?
Okay. So I think from how it shows sort of witchcraft in its sort of, you shouldn't do certain things, probably Practical Magic would be my number one. Don't play with things you don't understand. Don't get involved with the darker side of things unless you know you can control it. Then The Craft with Firuza Balk and the other young ladies, because it kind of teaches the idea of like universal balance.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, we've all, for those of us who are probably young enough to do it at the time, we all wanted to do light as feather, stiff as a board, and change our hair colours with a glamour. But it was just one of those films that was so well done that it kind of, as I say, it showed balance and what the elements can do, and when you invoke, if you don't do things properly with the right respect, it teaches like the idea of having a sacred space. So both of those are probably the two that are up there.
Yeah.
Really, in my humble opinion. There is a Netflix TV show. It's not a film, but it's a Netflix TV show called The Order. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No.
It's quite an interesting one. So it bases its whole storyline and plot around a secret society at a university called the Hermetic Order of the Blue Rose.
Yeah.
And they have like animal sacrifices, and they cut themselves to release sort of like the power of within them for an incantation, and it's very much like acolyte, neophyte, and then they have different grades depending on what level they are. So it kind of teaches structure, but it also shows that sometimes there's a darker side to anything.
Yeah.
I mean, there's this, without giving too much of away, they've got this whole idea of getting this particular book that has a spell that will allow the sort of practitioner to not have any consequences from the magic that they do. So it shows that sometimes that it's not always good and it's not always bad. It just is. Again, I could probably go on for a lot more than those three, but
so
they're two that.
Ever seen The Magician's Apprentice?
I've seen The Sorcerer's Apprentice. I've not seen The Magician's Apprentice.
Oh, sorry, Sorcerer's Apprentice. So do you remember the moral of that story?
It's something about absolute power, isn't it? And how sometimes we can go too far within the purview of trying to achieve things. I think if it's the one I'm thinking of, because there might be another one of the same title, which, knowing me, there probably is. Which I'm thinking of the one with Nicolas Cage in it.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the Walt Disney with Mickey Mouse.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the Nicolas Cage one. I've not seen the Mickey Mouse one.
So the Mickey
It's a bit
Mouse
like Fantasia, isn't it? About
it is part. It starts off. It's the start of Fantasia. It was written in the 1950s, and it demonstrates what you can do if you have. It's having the power but little knowledge, and not quite knowing what to do with. And because he completely causes mayhem,
there's a very similar scene in Sorcerer's Apprentice about just because you have got the ability doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
So we're on completely different tracks there. That's brilliant.
No. So I love Fantasia.
I've never watched it in its entirety.
Oh, it's there's some aspects to it. Yeah, it's like when Helios is riding through the sky.
Yeah.
There's some really good mythology in there.
Yes, yeah.
It
makes me think of I don't know if anyone else will remember it, but there used to be a TV show on like BBC Children's sort of the daytime. And I don't know if it was on in general, like just for teachers to record for school or not, but it was like Tales from Around the World.
All right,
and one of my favourite ones is it's the story of Hades and Persephone, which is it's like all done by puppets and all like stop motion animation. It's really lovely. It's like one of my favourite stories of all the Greek mythology.
Oh,
I'll have to see if I've seen it. I'm sure I found it on YouTube once. I'll have to send it to you to watch because it's beautifully done.
oh no, that'd be gorgeous. Yeah. So it's surprising, isn't it, how some of the stories work. And I've come across certain tales to do with the Greek stories where they seem to be repeating themselves, like they're not being allowed to look
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
Because you have one, because he goes in to rescue his wife, and
yes, yeah.
but she has to follow him, and he's not allowed to look over his shoulder before they reach the bound. He's got to be outside the boundary of Hades before he's allowed to look back.
Yeah,
And
otherwise he loses that, doesn't he?
yeah, but it's there's also an aspect of that, isn't there, within the Bible about not looking back, because Lot's wife looked back and she got turned into a pillar of salt.
She did, yeah. And then that's where we get the expression "salt of the earth" from.
Yeah.
No, I think some of the, if I was to class myself as anything, because it used to be, I'll just can't quite say that I'm a pagan or a witch or whatever, but a Hellenist is probably the closest thing to what I believe, because I do believe in the Egyptian pantheon more than in Greek pantheon more than I believe in any other. I just think the stories are just lovely. Some of them are a bit grim, and it's a lot of them are just about Zeus getting his end away. But apart from once you get through the past those and you find the morality stories, I think they're some of the best out there.
Have you read the the Trials of Hercules?
No, not in its entirety. I've read parts of it when I did English or literature at school, but not all of it.
Yeah,
I've got,
that's quite interesting, because some of that links into astrology and
yeah,
how some of the asteroids are, because you've got Chiron, but it
yeah,
gives you some if you read those, it gives you some
yeah,
insight into some of the names that you'll come across, and even some
yeah,
historical
yeah.
comments, and you'll go, oh, now I understand what you're going on about.
Yeah, I've read the Iliad, and I've read some of the other sort of poet works, but a long time ago now. Probably need to get them out again and read again because it's such a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, it's remembering it, isn't it? And it's like the whole thing with Prometheus and
Mm-hmm.
him giving fire to humans. But
Yes.
but there's like, I suppose, what's it? Which is it? Is it Marvel films where they bring in the Titans?
I think there is a couple of Marvel films, yeah, but I think I don't really like. Yeah, you're thinking of the Eternals, and they kind of have Athena, they have like a character that's basically Hephaestus, and a couple of others, and it was all right. I mean, most of what Marvel does is all right, but I thought it was a bit lacking, to be honest. If you think about the stories of them, sort of, they don't really, they don't kind of match up in my estimation. I mean, the best books out there that I've found is Stephen Fry's series, sort of Heroes, Mythos, and Troy.
Yes.
He did a fantastic job of those. And I think it helps because he's an actual linguist and he's very good at pronunciation of things, and he's such a good storyteller anyway. I mean, the number of times I've listened to that at bedtime, it's
Yeah.
unreal.
If you like Stephen Fry, talking, you need this. He's read the complete works of Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, it's on my to get list on Audible because I like Sherlock Holmes stories.
Yeah, well, you can imagine with Stephen Fry, and he does a very good job at changing his accent and things. So yeah, I spent many an hour listening to him talk to me about Sherlock, and I ended up having a bit of a Sherlock obsession. So
I think that a lot of people do. To be fair, I mean, I've got all of the Harry Potter books that he read.
have you?
Yeah, and they're phenomenal because and I won't get into the whole JK debate, but him reading them, like, they're better than the people who played them in the films. Like, I don't hear Alan Rickman as Snape. I hear Stephen Fry as Snape's.
Ah.
I just think that's the better two, really. Obviously, there's other things that he's done that I've got. What else is he? He also read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is one of my favourites.
Yes. Mind you, that was quite a good TV show.
I never saw the TV show. I've seen the film.
I don't know if you can whether you'd even be able to get hold of any copies of it. You might find it actually. Somebody may have videoed it.
Yeah, I'm sure they would have.
And do you know what? It's probably floating around YouTube.
I'm gonna have a look
because people upload TV series, because it's Arthur Dent, isn't it? And it always used to strike me because he was there in his striped pajamas.
Yeah,
it was the concept of it. Because what I realised, it was only recently, was there was stuff happening on the TV in our house, and I mentioned something the other day, literally a couple of weeks ago, about something we used to watch on TV. And my dad went, "I hated that program," and I said, "Well, why did you let us watch it then?" But I don't think he even realised we were watching it because he was probably in the back room, and we, the children and the teenagers, were all in the front room watching not the 9 o'clock news.
Yes,
And stuff like that.
Familiar with it. I've not watched it, but there's any sort of little clips on YouTube. Just looked.
Yeah. So you can imagine, it's like, where did you get all those bad ideas from? Watching TV.
I mean, you just have to look at things like Magic Roundabout, don't you? Really?
Yeah. Although my favourite, and this just shows you where my leanings were, I much preferred Will o' the Wisp.
Not really familiar with that, and I know what a Will o' the Wisp is, but it's not familiar with that one. I mean, we had Bill and Ben on repeat, so
yeah, Will o' the Wisp. They had Kenneth Williams played Willow, as in Willo, and they were tree spirits.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they were like spirits and wood. And I loved it. It was there was obviously a level of humour, but it used to be on I've got a feeling it was like 5 to 6 before the 6 o'clock news or something weird like that. So it was only on by like 5 minutes.
So I remember in the herb garden.
Yeah.
And we had Rosie and Jim and the Clangers and the Moomins and the dreaded Teletubbies.
Yeah.
People have a go about Teletubbies though, but for those children that were like struggling with communicating, some of them their first words were "uh-oh."
Yeah, I know.
So I can't see the problem with it. Okay, it's not something you want to encourage children to watch, but if they were struggling with verbalization, then it worked.
Yeah.
Oh, and what was the other thing? Come outside. So this Auntie Mabel, she was, and she had Pippin the dog, which is a Dulux dog, and she used to fly a plane from her back garden and go and tell you how things worked.
Oh, I know. Love it. Gorgeous dog. Yeah.
Yeah, of which I found out when I was a bit older that there was about 5 of them, and they're all dead now.
Oh. Well, we had one many years ago called Wurzel Gummidge,
Oh,
and
I'm familiar with that.
yeah, well, he had magic because he used to be able to change his head.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, there used to be some interesting characters in that one. You know, when you sort of think about it and you go, there is something there within that sort of tied
yeah.
in to some of the old country tales. And
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely believe it would have been. I
yeah,
mean, if you think about what he is, he's a magical scarecrow, isn't he? Really.
yeah,
I mean, it's like the story of Jack Frost, isn't it? Just but in summer.
yeah. But then,
So I love that.
if you are going to be reading, you know, any of the Tiffany Aching books, when she comes across the version of Mr. Frost in the Wintersmith,
Yeah.
that's an interesting one, because it's all about bringing in it brings in its own way what you said earlier on about the story of Persephone and
Yeah.
Demeter
Yeah.
and winter coming and the Horn of Plenty, all of that
Mm-hmm. Well,
aspect that
it's touched on, isn't it? If you think about the book, The Hogfather, it's touched on a little bit in that, the Horn of Plenty.
yeah, cornucopia.
Yeah, if you think about it as a sense of the rich lord who has their food taken away and dropped off at the peasant's house. That's very much the idea of that. And I think we said earlier on about Terry Pratchett being some sort of super level witch. I think that's very accurate, because how he's written death and how he wrote. I mean, my personal favorite character is Granny Weatherwax, and I think that she's got to be like the ultimate witch in there. And everyone talks about Unseen University and the wizards and like Ridcully, but I think she's more powerful than any of them.
Oh, definitely. When you think in equal rights and then her abilities,
yes, exactly,
and she's got the knowing, and the wizards don't have the knowing. The wizards are the textbooks. They can do it with a book, but they can't just be. They can't bring it forward through their connection.
Absolutely. And I think there's a huge thing about, I think what he did, even though equal rights was written quite a while ago now, is that if you look at it, it's just a parallel of the world that we're in the holistic or spiritual world, because we went through a huge sort of movement of people saying, oh, you can't do this, it's a closed practice, you can't do that. And then people are being accused of gatekeeping, which is exactly what it is. And people being accused of cultural appropriation for using smudge or whatever they wanted to do, and like people going, oh, you can't do that because I'm a so and so and you're not, so I'm not going to let you do this mystical practice that I don't own. It's just and that's exactly what equal rights was, isn't it? If you think about it, Escarina just she didn't really want to be a wizard really until she found out that she could. And then she found out she had the staff and the power worked through with her, and then all she wanted to do is to get into the Unseen University, where it's just a case of being told no. And it's so accurate to what was going on at the time in the spiritual world. You couldn't say, oh, I used a sage smudge stick, because someone say, oh, that's cultural appropriation, you've taken away from the First Nations people. I'm like, well, no, the native First Nations people aren't the only other people to burn herbs for clearing.
No. Well, you've only got to if you think about it, the whole Beltane fire was burning
Yeah,
herbs to clean the cattle.
absolutely. And the winter solstice was very much and like the Yule log was very much to burn through the longest night to keep the chimney clear for the rest of winter.
Yeah.
It's so messed up sometimes, isn't it?
Oh, I 100% agree with you, because I often will sit back and I think I'm not going to get involved in that argument when people start pontificating about a certain thing, because I think actually, if you look historically, but then no one really knows 100% what used to go on, because it wasn't written down.
Absolutely, and people say that about the Druidic tradition. The Druids didn't write anything down; it was an
No.
oral tradition. So you can, there's these courses out there, from Obod and the like. You're telling me that they've got a direct line back to the Druids of 500-600 years ago, and that's all that they teach? Of course, it isn't, and I just think it's ridiculous.
Yeah. But then, do you not think it's interesting? I was actually thinking about this, how rich some people become on the back of the metaphysical. It's quite a good money spinner, isn't it?
It is, and as you know, we put on the event, and there's often people that you can see are just there for the money. They're not remotely spiritual or holistic or anything. They've used various modalities or skill sets to fund their life, which, to be fair, we all have a reason, a need to fund what we want to do. But for every one of them, luckily at the moment, it seems there's to be more people like you and I that are doing it because we want to do it for the betterment of not just ourselves in terms of healing and letting things go and moving forward, but for the betterment of other people as well.
Yeah.
And they stand out in a room. They really do, because for every one of us that has a simple table and with nice, I'm thinking of your table that I saw in May specifically, nice handwritten labels that's nice and clear, or you've got someone that's got mass-produced printed labels, and I've got a printed tablecloth, but not in the same way as I'm kind of describing it. Everything's branded, if that makes sense, rather than taking it back just to aesthetics. Because I think I should like the way it looked, not to make it more appealing. Like, it's for me to work on, not for someone to go, oh, well, where did you get that?
Yeah. I'm. Do you know what? I was surprised, and I've seen several people doing it now, but the person did admit it, because I said, "Oh, those spoons are lovely. Where did you get those from?" And she goes, "Shh, a well-known Chinese site."
Yeah, Timu,
Like,
probably.
what is going on? This is
Yeah,
meant to
and
be about craft and bringing forward our personal skills, and you're selling Chinese shit.
absolutely. And you see it with people. You see a whole table. Often at these things, you'll see a whole table of Oracle and Tarot decks, and you think, oh, they're smaller. Maybe they're a pocket sized. And you turn them over, and there's a QR code on the back to download the audio, the book of the guidebook. And they're fake. They've stolen the intellectual property of people that have worked really, really hard. And I use a particular reference here to, I don't know if you know Karen Kay and her Oracle of the Fairies, amongst others, that she's done. But I was at an event and someone had got hundreds of decks, and I'm thinking, that's a lot of money in stock. And I said, where's your supplier? What's your supplier? And again, a bit like you, another well-known Chinese crap. And so I took a picture of it and I sent it to Karen, and I said, I don't know if you're aware, but I've just seen this. Oh yeah, you won't be the first to tell me this recently. It seems to be as soon as the deck's out there now, within a few months, these
Yeah.
things appear.
Well, there's that tarot deck publisher in Southern Ireland, or I should say
No.
Ayr. Yeah, so in they possibly make one deck, they publish and they create it. So with the artistic, they did an Alice in Wonderland deck, which you and Kirsty might like to have a look at.
Right.
But I don't think you can buy it, but you can still see the images on their website. I will remind me to have a look at it, to send you the link to it. So they do these amazing, they do Gothic, like a Gothic deck. And a while back, they sent a message out and saying, we're considering giving it up
Yeah.
because our work is constantly being stolen.
Yeah, and they would be in court for years, and the people that are producing these things, they've got millions upon millions of sales, and it would be whatever fine they got or anything would be a drop in the ocean.
Yeah. But why would you buy a knockoff? I don't understand it, because the cards are floppy.
Yeah.
The imagery is often blurred, and
Yes, because they've taken it. It's I mean, some people generally don't know any different, but if I've seen them at places, and I will say to people, oh, don't buy from that, that's fake. And then if there is someone selling the genuine, I'll make sure I refer them on. But I was at Tavistock event last March. Yeah, last March, not this March. And a woman was out front in a gazebo, and I saw her unpacking crystals, and they still had like the sheen or shine or whatever they call it, bags coming out the shine bags.
oh,
And I'm thinking, I went over and had a look once she'd set up, and I'm thinking, she's charging, what was it, 32 or 42 pound for a sphere, which was supposedly crackle quartz. Well, that's not a thing. It's just heated glass. You're actually trying to tell me that this is quartz? I said, no. Come on, pull the other one. Where did you get your crystals? And she went, oh, from Sheen.
that's shocking, isn't it?
Yeah. And
But
I kind of
I
just
know,
can't believe it.
yeah, I have come across somebody who's bought one of the big, what do you call it, rose quartz ones, because you see it on there, you see them on Temu as well. If you look, because I often look for things and I go, what is blah blah blah, and the things potentially for sale come up, and so some of these crystals do. But going back to Terry Pratchett, did you ever, if you read the Tiffany Aching series, and I think it's Hatful of Sky, there's a witch in who Granny Weatherwax absolutely detests, who is one of the ones who is quite a well-to-do witch, and she has lots of crystals, and she has dream catchers everywhere in her house, and you can't do a particular spell without a certain sprinkle of pixie dust, and you need, basically, it was this whole thing around, she had all the gadgets, and there's a phrase, isn't there, around people who've got all the gear and no idea, and Terry Pratchett just captures it and perfectly. But this woman thinks that she should be the head witch when Granny Weatherwax dies.
Yeah.
And not that Granny Weatherwax can truly die. She crosses the Rainbow Bridge, and it's almost like if you hadn't appeared in her life before she passed over, I would have thought you was Granny Weatherwax reincarnated. Because that cat is uncanny. Yeah. It's just an amazing. I want a cat like that. I love cats, but I like cats to be independent and not. I don't like being like being bothered.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I will look after them, but I'm independent. They can be independent, and having a cat that it just go, yeah, let's travel together and do that thing, but I'm not going to be an annoying
yeah.
botherer all the time.
I love
Yes.
that though, because that's exactly what my beagle is.
Sorry.
That's exactly what my beagle is. She can't do anything independently. She's just like, no, I'm going to be near you and I'm going to sit on you.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because when you sometimes just I want to have a little bit of space, and I don't want to be touching anything. Like or when I say touching anything, you don't want to be touching any living thing. Because it's almost
Absolutely.
I'm here reflecting on it as I'm saying it, and I don't know if you get this. Is it because our empathy has run out, and if one more thing touches us, we just want to smack it?
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I really do. Yeah, like, especially like it's usually when it's like late at night, isn't it? And like you're all settled in bed, and then the dog will move, and then you're not comfortable anymore. But I know I get that. She'll stretch, and like because she has to be like touching both of us in the bed, like at the bottom. Then if she
Oh,
moves, then then I can't get comfortable again for ages after that.
yeah. It's weird, isn't it? Because I do think certainly my recharging almost has to be not in touch with something that's
Yeah,
like trotting along on top of the earth.
yeah, something non-sentient.
Well, see, I was wondering whether it was a non-sentient, but I don't have a problem with hanging around with trees. They don't
Yeah,
seem to um irritate me in that way. I can it's like, I suppose maybe I'll just get overstimulated.
I think we all do though, and I think sometimes it seems like the more spiritual somebody is, the more neurodivergence there is.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Um, Especially if I think back to people I've known, the truly like gifted ones, shall we say, are usually the ones that are a bit more neurospicy.
You know who I think was so on the autistic spectrum?
Mm.
Alistair Crowley.
Yeah, I think so because of the nature to obsess. So, I mean, Diaries of a Coke Fiend, for one of them, some of his most brilliant works seem to be when he was on a hyper focus or on a bender, for want of another expression.
But he was an addict because medicine made him one.
Yes, he was.
Because of his asthma. If he
Yeah,
hadn't been asthmatic, he probably wouldn't have been a coke fiend.
no, I agree. Like, there's so much more to him as a person than people really want to admit.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh no, he's evil. He's this. He's the other." But I think no, he was just a product of his upbringing. I mean, everyone go, "Oh, he was called the Great Beast," but people don't realise it was actually his mother that called him that. Nobody else. He didn't self-style that. His
No.
mother called him that when he was sleeping with a maid.
It's funny,
So I
isn't
think,
it? Yeah, because you think about I suppose maybe it is that neurodivergence that gives you that ability to switch off to the external and tap into the other.
yeah, I agree.
Mm.
There's a lot to say for the way he was perceived for sure. You know, people say, "Oh, he was a paedophile and a murderer," and I think we all would be. Well, not that he was a paedophile, but I think we'd all be a bit mad if we had super gonorrhea. Oh no, what was it? Wasn't gonorrhea, it was syphilis, wasn't it? Like basically supercharged syphilis because he'd had it so many times and never got it like treated. So I mean, well, syphilis will create madness.
Yeah. Well, that's
which
what
is why so
happened
many.
with King Henry VIII, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Yeah. You know, and also it was why prostitutes in the Victorian era were incredibly mad, for want of a better term.
Yeah.
Because the syphilitic sores would be never getting a chance to heal, and also they didn't have the medicine to be able to treat them. And they just would slowly lose their marbles.
Sad, really, isn't it, when you think about it? Because
yeah, when you get down to the brass tacks of it, yeah.
see, if they hadn't have burnt all the witches, they probably would have had a way of treating it.
Absolutely, they were certainly maybe at least making people comfortable, if not treating it.
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, with any of those things, there's a remedy for everything that happens on this planet. There is a remedy somewhere on the planet,
Yeah, absolutely.
and generally, the source, where the source is where the cure is.
Well, I mean, look at the whole thing with smallpox, with cowpox.
Yeah.
And how basically they developed in time a vaccine, didn't they?
Yeah.
They realised milkmaids weren't getting cowpox, but they did get smallpox. So they kind of realised that, oh, there must be some sort of... I mean, they thought it was demons, admittedly, but...
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Yeah, I think there's so much. I mean, we've been talking for like nearly an hour and 3/4, and we've barely had any questions. I love it.
We've covered quite a lot of subjects, you know.
We have. We're both. I'm a very curious person.
I know. We've done a couple of loops.
Yeah.
We've had the themes, and I think you're like the fact that we could, pull this to a close because we've naturally come up with the creator of the FOF, Alistair Crowley.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's where we started.
That's where we started, yeah, from the very beginning for myself there. So,
yeah,
it's a very interesting mechanism. It's a very interesting deck in itself. And for anyone who hasn't looked at one, you'll see them at any sort of Mind Body Spirit Fair or sort of like witchcraft shop will have a copy in there somewhere. And I highly recommend getting one if you can, even if you don't plan on reading it, because it's just the artwork alone. It was painted. Oh, what was the name of the lady? Was it Frida Harris? Yeah, Frida Harris painted them. And she was a phenomenal artist. And never saw she. They never. Both of them had died within a sort of a short period of each other, if I remember memory serves. So they never actually got to see it properly complete.
Oh.
Like in its entirety, they left one hell of a legacy. I mean, not many people know that Crowley had a house in Cornwall, down near Zena.
Yeah, I've heard about that. There's various myths about it, though, aren't there?
There is, yeah. I don't think he inhabited it for very long, compared to like Boleskine in Scotland or the other houses that he would have inhabited. Because there's a huge misunderstanding with sort of the ritual that he was trying to do at Boleskine House. I don't know if you're aware of it, but basically it came from the Book of Abramelin, or Abramelin the Mage, which is where we get Abramelin oil from, which was just a sacred or holy anointing oil. What he was trying to do was get in contact with his own guardian angel. So basically he was meditating for 6 months. Everyone thinks it was all like sacrifices and this and that, but he was purifying himself in the only way that he knew to be able to contact and reach his higher level of consciousness, which is when he was on some of the most mind-altering substances at the same time, because he had to try and get out of his own head to be able to communicate with his higher self. So if we think full circle into hermetics and the esoteric, all those people are ever trying to do is raise their vibration and communicate with one's higher plane and higher self.
Yeah,
that's all the great mages ever did in sort of the Eastern tradition or the Western tradition. They're not trying to like turn water into wine or anything else. They were literally practicing what we now know as meditation.
Yeah.
I think that's quite when I found that out, I was like, oh, that's a bit disappointing.
Wow. And now you've got a whole array of tuning forks that can drop you into that state.
Absolutely, yeah. So if we think about it from that state, they're just trying to get into a low delta.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I counted my tuning forks the other day. I've got 52.
Oh my God. What are you like?
Well, I want them all. It's a bit like Pokemon. Got to catch them all. I'm a bit of a collector anyway, and I think if you're going to collect something, you've got to collect all of it. I don't think I've got room to collect them all as chime pipes, though. Thank God.
No, you're gonna have to get yourself a bigger house, aren't you?
Yeah, it's gonna have to have like my own sound studio in it, so I can have everything hung up on the wall.
Now that would be the ideal, wouldn't it? So you've got them there, so you can just have them playing around you.
Yeah, I mean, in my therapy space, I do have really good advice to anybody who wants to hang chimes. So I've got a extendable shower curtain rail, and it goes from wall to wall just enough, and locks in, so I can hang 9. I think I've had 7 chime pipes on there so far.
Oh wow, that's a good idea, actually, isn't it? To put one of those, because they're tension rods, aren't they?
Yes, yeah, exactly that. Obviously, sometimes you've got to make sure you tighten it if you take things down and move things around a bit, because it does loosen a little bit, and then you have them all over the floor.
Yeah, you don't need that happening. Oh, yeah, I can just imagine the noise. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's happened twice. Luckily, not when I had someone on the therapy bed.
Oh.
I was putting them back one day because I had some downstairs for whatever reason, and I had them. I went to put them back upstairs, and it was like 12:30, 1:45 in the morning, and the whole thing just clattered off to the floor. I'm like, oh no!
Oh, you were popular.
To be fair, I did chat with my neighbour, and she didn't hear anything.
Oh God, yeah. Sometimes, when I have moments like that, and I think to myself, right, that's your own fault because you tried to cut a corner when I
Yes,
dropped something, and so I actually have to sometimes say to myself, you're going to do it properly. You're going to follow the sequence. You're not going to jump any bits and try and do it faster.
I think what I'd done is I'd carried too many up at the same time.
Yeah.
And then I was trying to hook them all on, and yeah. So,
yeah.
But
Oh,
it was it was like when I was doing the bowls the other day, and I sent you the videos of the cymatics. I was like, oh, I could just film all of them doing dung 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 dung. I'm like, no, but it's all going to be the same. Well, they wouldn't. But you don't need. Once you've seen one, you've seen them all. Really, I was like, but I could film them all and make a YouTube video.
You could, but do it on TikTok first.
Do it on TikTok.
Yeah.
I could do it, I suppose. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I do think that we're trying to get sounds out there, and I think it's important that people see it for what it is and how simplistic it is.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and it's sharing the message of the simple impact, because I know from my own experiences before I did the training back in last October when we did that. I probably was I used to wake up. I used to wake up about 3 o'clock in the morning, and there's various reasons why people say that we wake up during the night. But the tuning forks mean I sleep. I actually have a good night's sleep because I do them every day. It's like I can drop myself into the sleep zone as part of my end of day practice. I don't use the forks because I tend to do mine in the morning, but I know that I can go
Yeah.
And the other thing I found it quite easy to bring back in was to do a bit of Reiki, self Reiki, when I lie down in bed.
Yeah.
Because it opens it all up and it goes, right, that makes sense. Just do a bit of that, do a little bit of a little bit of distance healing as part of almost like a prayer mechanism. As a daily piece, and that in itself, I think it brings this huge amount of contentment. I don't know what you found.
I just feel like I don't know if it's I don't know if it's the word is contentment, but it's just general and breathe. Everything's going to be okay. I feel safe. I feel held. I feel everything that so I can settle. And there's been a few times where I've used it like post argument or just post really like overwhelm. And there's been other times where I feel like I want to use it and I know I can't because it's just the sound wouldn't be right and I know with all the ones I've got, something would have worked, but in that moment, I'm going, no, I'll push it away. I don't want it. And there are other times where I could sit there for hours and just carry on doing the same cycle,
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? On which ones pull in, and I really enjoy this. Using my CCB, I get a lot of pleasure from the simple, just the piece of when you first sit down and it's like and the cup of coffee I drink when I do the weighted arm tastes amazing.
Yeah. I did try that after you mentioned it. I was like, yeah, this works.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was on Atlantis Rising, I had I Atlantis the bath.
Yeah.
And that was lovely. And then obviously because we were talking about, pineal gland and rhombohedral crystals that form around it. So I actually placed Temple and Atlantis, both, obviously they're both weighted, on the site where I know my pineal gland to be. And I could feel it like shifting and changing. It was really interesting.
No, that is a good point. Do you think we should mention where we did our training?
Absolutely. Because otherwise people are like, what on earth are they on about?
Yeah. So last October, Cameron and I met, and where did we meet, Cameron?
So we met at Suara Sound Academy's Tuning Fork Practitioner course, which is 5.5 days of sacred sound and vibration to bring and restore balance to the body, mind and spirit with these most amazing tools. So we specifically studied the Clear Cleanse and Balance system, which is an OM, the weighted OM, and then the 528, and also the solfeggio, which is a series of 9 frequencies, which was actually found by a series of number reduction in the Bible. from the Book of Numbers in the Bible. And it's life-changing week, really, wasn't it? It was very powerful, very profound. We're both qualified now. We qualified within about a week of each other, I think.
Yeah, I think it's because we're speed merchants.
It was no, I kind of just treated it like a full-time job, and how else better than to really hone what you want to do and how you really enjoy something, and then other than just treating it as if that's the only thing you've got to do, which is what I did. And I mean, I from start date of case studies to the last case study was 99 days, which on a sort of a soul level, that's the dharmic number of completion is 9. And even if you add 9 and 9 together, you get 18 plus 1 and 8 is 9. So it's like a full cycle thing. And then I did the singing bowls and percussion course, which you've not done, have you yet?
No.
I don't know if you're planning to or not. And then we met up again and we did Atlantis Rising, didn't we? So I don't know if you want to talk about that one.
Well, Atlantis Rising is quite profound as a course, because I think simplistically, it is a course that taps into your ancestral memories, and things come through that you just do not know where it came from, and then you'll get a sense of knowing. And I think one of the things I found, and I don't know if you did, I played certain forks, and as I was writing down the information that was coming through to me, and then I went and looked it up afterwards, and what I was getting matched what the research was saying. So from a balancing it out, with this is coming, you're getting this information now, go and look it up. Oh, he does do that. That does do that. Okay, right. That's really, and that's just amazing, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, it was. I had very much a similar experience, and I again had a really profound, really emotionally charged experience. I know that it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
I said it was very much a week, although it felt a lot longer. It was only 5.5 days, but it felt like a month. But then there was times where it felt like it'd only been 24 hours, so time kind of stretched and went wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff. And it was very special. We learned a lot, and we were the inaugural group. Really, we were the first one of its type. There's 11 forks in that set, so it's huge.
I think it's worth noting, isn't it, that Debbie changed the future plans for the course because it was so impactful. It is. I said to Debbie, "This feels like advanced practice."
Oh yeah, definitely. We all said that, didn't we, throughout the week, that it all felt very, very advanced. I don't think you could do it if you hadn't got some of your shit together. It's not an easy journey for sure.
No.
But we still had a lovely week, and we still laughed a lot and giggled, and I mean, we seemed to be very, very crude in places.
Earthy, grounded.
Well, yes, that too.
But that's often a way when you've got people who've got done any healthcare work. It seems to bring it out in them.
Absolutely, and I may not be a nurse, but I did work in a nursing home, so I can sit there and talk about bowel movements while I'm eating my soup. It doesn't bother me.
Now, don't be putting people off attending the course, because I'm sure there's some people who would be interested in joining Debbie's CCB, her foundation course. who
Yeah.
might not be from a healthcare background.
No, I think it's all with the groups just kind of naturally find their rhythm, don't they? And I mean, I've
They
been on
do,
3
yeah.
courses now. Been on 3 courses and 1 retreat because I went to Iona in March. And it seems to be that, I mean, apart from practitioners where I wasn't the only boy, every time I've been the only boy, and if you worry that you're not going to fit in, you will find that you do more than you've ever fitted in your life. And I think that's really special.
Yeah, no, it is. Oh, I'm going to let you go, Cam, because I think we've just hit 2 hours.
It's 2 hours, 1 minute and 10 seconds.
Well, and the thing is just to point out to those of you that are listening, Cameron and I could probably talk till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And the main reason that I would call it time, Ben, is because I only do one 4 o'clock in the day, and that tends to be the one in the afternoon. Yeah, don't do the early 4 o'clocks anymore.
No, I don't through choice. But no, I'm pretty sure we could revisit another episode at some point because we could easily talk again.
Yeah. 100%. I agree with you. It has been lovely to have you on the podcast today. And those of you who are listening, hopefully you listen to both parts, because I will be splitting this to give you the time to listen in your bites. And if you have any questions for Cameron, where can people find you, Cameron?
So I'm on Facebook as Alchemy of Sound, and Instagram as Alchemy of Sound Kerno, and I think there's a 2024 in that username as well. But I'll pop it all across to Sarah to put in any boxes. If you're in the southwest, and specifically Cornwall, I'm often out and about at Mind Body Spirit fairs, of which I run one of my own with a lovely lady called Trish. And the next one is on the 19th and 20th of July, where you will see both of us there, actually, because Sarah's helping out on our lovely friend's stall. So yeah, come along. But yeah,
And
those
that's
are the
in
main social
Callington.
venues.
It's for
It's in
Callington.
It's in Callington. Yeah, I didn't get that far, did I? Callington Mind Body Spirit, and then also that is also on Facebook as Callington Mind Body Spirit Fair. We don't just do those. On Monday night, we had our first mediumship evening, or evening of mediumship, with one of the most well-known mediums in the country, a gentleman called Stephen Holbrook, who came all the way down from Hull, I think. But we had 137 people in the audience, which was brilliant for the first one we did. So yeah, happy to answer any questions if there is any. But yeah, thank you very much for having me on. It's been great.
Oh, no, it's been great having you on. Thank you very much, Cameron.
Take care. We'll speak to you soon.